In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're going to talk about those with a moderate pension, which we would consider about $3,000 a month, and who have saved $1 million or more, who are the Midwestern millionaires that we always talk about. So this video is going to be very helpful if that's you, or maybe if you're close to it, to help better understand the planning that you're going to need to understand, what the concerns are going to be, what are the strategies we need to be aware of to make sure we're best planning for this scenario. So that's what we have in today's episode. Hope it's helpful for you, and stay tuned.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
So we get a lot of comments on these videos talking about, hey, can you do videos on this specific person? Here's my situation. Can you help me with it? And so we do a lot of planning for those with larger pensions, but we want to talk about more with those with moderate pensions. A lot of our clients are in this position here where they have a moderate pension of what I would consider, maybe $2,000 to $4,000 a month. And there's going to be a little different planning for them versus someone who may have what we did a video on not too long ago on a pension of $100,000 or more. And so obviously this is kind of the sweet spot where it's a really good place to be to have a pension that's a moderate pension, but also you puts you really in the hole from a tax planning standpoint when it comes to Social Security tax and other things like Medicare premiums and other things to be aware of. So when you add the investments on top of it, it can lead to a lot playing together there. So we're going to do a video on this one here today, but if there's any other videos that you want me to do on this type of situation, or maybe you want to tell me your specific situation without putting your name on there, then I can do a video talking through a concept just like I did for this of how we would handle a situation like this and what we'd look for. So let's first just understand this concept, right? Because if you have $3,000 a month pension per month, that's a really good amount of $36,000 a year for the rest of your life. That's an awesome place to be, as we've always talked about on this channel here. But then you're also probably going to get Social Security on top of that as well. And so let's say your Social Security is another $3,000 a month. Well, that's another $36,000. That's $72,000 of income guaranteed for the rest of your life. And then if you have $1 million or more saved, then we know, let's just use a simple 4% withdrawal rate that could last 30 years into retirement. Well, that could be another $40,000 of income on top of that as well. And so between those three sources of income, you're going to be in a very great place moving forward. Now it's a matter of how we're going to maximize this conversation. And so one of the things we always want to look at here is understanding where we're going to be at from a taxation and from an income standpoint. And so the first thing I want to explain here is, how does Social Security taxation work? So there's something called the provisional income, which is going to base to see if your Social Security is either tax-free, a portion of it taxable, or up to 85% of your Social Security benefit could be counted towards income. And so a lot of people with pensions we work with find themselves with 85% of their Social Security counting towards their income, and that means they're going to get less of their Social Security. And so what we're going to talk about with this specific situation with someone with $3,000 a month pension is, let's say they did start Social Security. And so you're going to see the chart I have up here that really shows this in a really good way of how Social Security is taxed here. So let's just say that your pension was under $20,000 a year, and that's the only thing you took out in addition to your Social Security. In that case, you would actually not pay any federal taxes because of something called the standard deduction. And so that $20,000 withdrawal would be federal income tax rate, tax-free, but also it would allow your Social Security provisional income calculation to be low enough to where they wouldn't have any of your Social Security counted as taxable income above the standard deduction there. So in this example here, if you had $20,000 you took out, and then let's say that $10,000 of your Social Security was taxable as income, that would only be $30,000, which is under the standard deduction, and that's how this calculation works here. And so you'll see, as soon as you go over that $30,000 limit, you're going to see the purple, and that's where Social Security becomes taxable. And the blue there is going to be your 10%, your 12%, your 22% tax brackets to see where all of that lies there. And then the main thing that I really like to point out here is that little jump you see where it's at the 40% level there. And that's what we call the Social Security tax torpedo. And again, that's where you now are hitting the point where 85% of your Social Security is taxable, and any income over that limit there would technically be at a 40% marginal rate when you combine the 22% and now the extra taxation of the Social Security that wouldn't have been if you stayed under that cliff there. And so that's something that we really want to be aware of. And so why I'm bringing this up for this crowd is because you're right there. You're right there in the Social Security tax torpedo. If we take our $36,000 pension, you're going to see right where we lie there. And then if you're saying, I want to take out that $40,000 in income from my pension, where does that put you? Or from your investments, where does that put you? It puts you right over that cliff where that last maybe $10,000 or $5,000 is going to be taxed at 40%. So in that case, maybe it makes sense for you to take out $30,000 and maybe take out an additional $10,000 from a Roth IRA so you don't have to hit that Social Security tax torpedo. And so that could be some of the advantage of looking at things like Roth conversion now, or maybe contributing to a Roth IRA if you're in this position. And a Roth conversion is simply where you move money from your tax deferred vehicles to tax free. And I've done a lot of videos on this channel. If you just search Roth conversions, you'll be able to do some studying on that concept of why this is so important to plan for people with pensions with a higher net worth, because when you have higher income, higher net worth, you're in a different position. And that's why we call it the 2% club. People with pensions and $1 million saved, there's only 2% of people out there in that scenario. And so your planning's definitely going to be more unique than others. If someone doesn't have a pension, well, they're going to have to take out, in my chart here, $60,000 to $70,000 before they get close to that Social Security tax torpedo. I mean, if you have $1.5 million, you're going to be fine. And again, that's less than 10% of people out there. And so you can see how this is just so much more unique when you start your income higher into retirement. So that's something we really want to play a part in. And that's when we do Roth conversions for clients. This is one thing we're looking at is Social Security taxation, of keeping them under this cliff so they're not having to overpay in tax on their Social Security, and making sure they can plan for that. And then the other thing we want to be aware of is Medicare premium tiers, which is really going to play a part with those who have been really diligent savers or maybe have a pension $3,000 a month or even more, where their income is going to force them to pay more in Medicare premiums. And so we have to be very aware of that, because we don't want to pay more but get the same coverage as everyone else. And again, strategies like a Roth can allow us to take out income from those vehicles tax-free, keep us under the Social Security tax torpedo, keep us under the Medicare cost to make sure that we're being wise and smart about where we sit there. And the other reason and way that the planning can become more important here is what we call the widow's penalty. And so you first have to decide if your $3,000 pension is going to go to your spouse or not, or maybe half of it will, or maybe none of it will. It's going to depend on what options you choose when you retire, or maybe the options you chose when you did retire there. But that's important to know as you plan moving forward, because if you lose that pension or maybe don't get the full amount, plus maybe you have a lesser Social Security, right? Because you're going to lose one of the two Social Securities when one spouse passes. You'll keep the higher one, but you'll lose that. So you're going to have a loss of income. And then taxes are going to go from married filing jointly to single. And let's say that pension is kept. Well, now that pension is going to force him into higher single tax brackets, and then any investment withdrawals in that time are going to be at higher potential rates than what it would be when you're married, because you have a higher range to work with. And so that could be another reason to do things like that Roth conversion we talked earlier, not only the plan for the torpedo, not only the plan for Medicare, but the plan if your spouse passed away, but also the plan for if you want to leave money to your loved ones, maybe your children, to make sure that they don't have to worry about taking it out over 10 years. They can take it out from a Roth, which is going to be tax-free there as well to them. So again, all this stuff plays together, but that is the things that we really want to be aware of with those people with a $3,000 pension, $1 million saved, or some of the considerations we want to look into. And one of the other things that we really are looking into in depth with these people with pensions and $1 million more saved is just what's your purpose with this money, right? We talked about earlier, you're going to have $100,000 or more of income a year, likely. That's a lot of money to spend for these Midwestern millionaires who have been frugal and are better savers than they are spenders. And so we really want to think of three things here that we can do with our money, but we can't take it with us. We can spend it, we can give it, or we can gift it. We can give it to a charity, or we could gift it to our loved ones, or we could enjoy and have the last dollar bounce back. And so we have to get busy putting a plan together, because so often we see people in retirement do not enjoy or see the enjoyment of their fruits of labor because they're just being conservative like they always have. Remember, this crowd has typically lived paycheck to paycheck. They've worked at the same job forever. They've had a lot of money come out of their paycheck to fund their pension, to fund their retirement accounts, to fund all their children's needs over all of those years. So it's is a different switch of being able to use this money for whatever purpose they may desire. They may have more of their hands clenched when now they can have more of their hands open. And so this is something we really encourage this crowd to think about so that you can get complete fulfillment out of what you've worked so hard for over the last 30 to 40 years. And so maybe that means that you're going to travel more. Maybe that means you're going to start gifting more to your kids and loved ones now so they can start seeing the benefits of it as they plan moving forward. Or maybe you up your charitable contribution and look at other tax strategies to take advantage of that as well in your planning moving forward there. But that's something that we really want to hold people accountable of, because so often we see people, they never enjoy it. They just keep saving, and then it's left maybe as an inheritance that maybe gets spent right away or maybe isn't used in the right purpose. So that doesn't always happen, but those are the things that we want to be aware of. And so if this is you and this is the type of planning that you're looking for more help with, if you felt like this video spoke to you and you've been looking for this type of help, we get a lot of people that reach out to us from these videos who basically say, hey, we have tried to find an advisor locally, or I've been doing it on my own all these years, and we're looking for someone really specialized in pensions and high net worth planning for those $1 million or more saved. If that's you, you can schedule a time with our team so that we can explore further of what it would look like to work together. This is something we get a lot of people we work with come from our YouTube channel here, because we specifically talk to that 2% niche that we always talk about on this channel here. And so you just click on the link, schedule a time. We'll have a 15-minute call with our team there and just really see if we could be a good fit. And then if so, we'll schedule another session to make a decision if we want to work together or not, so that we have everything organized, expectations set, so that we can see if this is going to be a good relationship moving forward. But I do want to be transparent. Again, we always get this. We have a lot of people that want to reach out to us and work with us. So if you can be very detailed in your questionnaire, that will help us ensure that we can help you in the best way possible there. So that's all I've got in today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. And remember, if you have a pension and $1 million saved, congratulations, you're in a great spot. Now make sure you make the most of your planning and optimize your situation.